driving a street-legal drag car. It's a 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Demon. Now, the Challenger SRT Hellcat was an astonishing performance vehicle for the modern era, but the Demon takes that and turns it up to 11. This is a car that has over 800 horsepower, and even more important, over 700 foot-pounds of torque. This is literally a rocket for the road. In fact, the manufacturer made all the buyers sign a waiver that they understood what the performance capability of this car was and that they would respect it. Well, we're certainly going to respect it today because we are not on a drag strip. But it's interesting to see how performance like this, which would have been unthinkable a few decades ago, is available from your showroom. And also to see what this means in terms of where this car came from, its heritage, and how this modern street racer performs in terms of its ancestors. First and foremost, this is a Dodge Challenger, and really the hot ride back in the day was a Plymouth Cuda. But since Plymouth is no longer with us, it falls to Dodge, the older sister, to uphold the performance mantle. And it's a very interesting place to sit right now. There are enough retro cues for those of us who were there and remembered when these cars were new to take us back to that day. The shape of the instrument binnacle, the shape of the dashboard, it's all very 1960s Cuda and Challenger. Everything is slightly scaled up though, just the way you'd expect it to be. Everything's a little bigger, a little thicker. Certainly this car is a lot smoother and quieter than any Challenger or Barracuda back in the day. But it's also interesting because there's a nervousness about this car. You can feel the vibration of the drivetrain, and it is clearly, there's more going on here. You know, when you drive a new base level Charger or something, it just sort of feels like another new car, completely isolating you from the road, kind of numb. Lots of power, but sort of on power on Novocaine. This is totally different. It's sort of throbbing and leaning away from you. This car comes with that crate that turns it into the actual drag monster that it was built to be. And so, as a consequence, I will not be using some of the more dangerous buttons on this console. For instance, the one that says launch. We won't be doing that today. But we will hopefully get an idea of, a little bit of an idea of what it's like to extend the claws of this beast. Around town, it feels like another Dodge Challenger. Not bad at all. Let's see what happens in a different environment. One of the things that the Dodge Demon does that its predecessor certainly never could do was actually take a turn. The suspension is set up in a way that actually makes you feel fairly confident. I'm not quite sure that simply because of the heft of this car that I want to hurl it around a lot of very tight hairpin turns, but there's absolutely no oversteer in this at all. You turn the steering wheel, it responds. And that's a very pleasant surprise. Certainly a very capable chassis paired to this brute of an engine. Also, of course, it helps the fact that the example that we're driving today has a total of 63 miles on it. So it's, for all intents and purposes, a brand new car, and I'm quite privileged to be driving it. It's also been interesting, too, as we come out, to watch the tire pressure slowly go up. Tire pressure monitor is front and center in this car. I think it's probably as important as the tachometer, and certainly more important than the speedometer. You want to make sure that the tires, which are especially made for this car, are exactly where they need to be to handle all the performance. It's so great that I get to drive so many varied cars, because there's something to love in every one of them, and something that you say, that's curious, in every one as well. And as is the case with most modern cars, especially high-performance cars, this almost feels too comfortable. Maybe it's just me and the hair shirt that lies underneath this blazer and bow tie that thinks that a car that has brutal performance should somehow treat you in a brutal manner. But that's not the world in which we live today. And it's a testament to the development of the car, especially the high-performance car, what they are like to drive. Because what yesterday would have been absolute gnashed teeth, broken kidneys, and all sorts of mayhem behind the wheel, today is as cushy as a drive in a family car 20 years ago. And I guess that is certainly automotive progress. This car has a curious sound profile. It's very distant and muted, yet present. It's sort of like the background music in a horror movie. You hear something in the distance. Something's about to happen, but you can't quite figure out what it is. And that's the soundtrack of this car. Now we're in manual mode. This is where it comes alive. Oh yeah. The tone shifts. In operatic terms, we go from baritone to tenor, and then back to bass. A little back pressure burble there. And it feels much lighter now. Much lighter. In fact, I wonder exactly where that performance would come from if we had to find it. This is a modern car that could actually do a wheelie. And the way the nose lightens up as you accelerate, I can believe it quite easily. I don't want to do a wheelie here, but you certainly could try. It doesn't seem like the sound of a drag racer. It sounds much more like, I don't know, a small displacement sports car. It's a really high noise. Like it's got a supercharger. One thing that it does, which I find slightly annoying, frankly, is that even though you're in manual mode, it's got automatic upshift overrides. It doesn't really want you to do too much. And of course, at 68 miles, I'm not going to push it. But it would be nice to be able to hold this all the way to redline to 6,000 RPM. My God, what a scream it must make. There we go. Full manual mode. And the automatic override's off. That's a lot more entertaining. It's funny how it goes from full banshee wail to church alto murmur with just a couple of upshifts. Maybe it's an entire choir, actually. The top rides at Disneyland and Disney World used to be called e-ticket rides. And this is certainly an e-ticket ride, as an E for entertaining. I've always found drag racing an interesting sport where the post-race interviews take longer than the races themselves. But you can just imagine the grin on your face after your short but quite memorable run in a Demon. I'm not quite sure that the hot rodders and street racers of the old days would necessarily recognize what this car is It's a curious hybrid between a traditional American muscle car, straight line only please, thank you very much, and sort of a modern, dare I say, Shelby GT350. Interesting to think about this, which is designed to be a drag racer, and the current Mustang 350R. That'd be an interesting drive to make. Have to do that sometime soon. But in the meantime, how I yearn to be able to press these forbidden buttons right now. For that, I would need a helmet and a certain waiver of liability, that's for sure. So, what was the oldest speedster introduced on the US market? That would be the Auburn Speedster back in 1935. What's the surprising speedster introduced in the 1950s, but before the Porsche Speedster? The Studebaker Speedster, a really neat iteration of the Lowy Coupe. Thanks for watching our videos. Come back soon. If you like these videos, let your friends know. Subscribe, comment, share.